I wake before dawn in the forest shadows, my senses already assembling a map of the world around me. The scent of pine resin mixes with damp earth and the distant musk of elk moving through the valley below. My pack sleeps close, bodies pressed together for warmth in the early spring cold. We are gray wolves, known to science as Canis lupus, members of the family Canidae and close relatives of domestic dogs, coyotes, and jackals. Our lineage stretches back hundreds of thousands of years, refined by ice ages and continental shifts into one of the most adaptable large carnivores ever to walk the earth. My body is built for endurance. I stand roughly 70 to 80 centimeters at the shoulder, though some of my northern cousins reach 90 centimeters or more. My weight fluctuates with season and food availability, currently around 40 kilograms. But I have seen pack members range from 25 kilograms in lean times to over 60 kilograms when prey is abundant. Males in our species typically outweigh females by 10 to 20%. My coat is a grizzled mix of gray, black, brown, and cream, each hair banded with multiple colors that create depth and variation. This coloration helps me blend into forests, grasslands, and tundra, depending on where my ancestors evolved. Wolves in the high Arctic wear coats of nearly pure white, while those in dense forests may appear almost black. My undercoat is dense, providing insulation against temperatures that can plunge to minus 40 degrees Celsius in winter. Right now, in early spring, I am shedding that thick winter layer in uneven patches, leaving tufts of soft fur snagged on branches as I move through the underbrush. My skull is robust, with powerful jaw muscles anchored to a pronounced sagittal crest along the top. My bite force can exceed 450 kilograms per square centimeter, allowing me to crack the femur of an elk or crush the windpipe of prey with precision. My teeth tell the story of my diet. 42 teeth in total, including 4 long canines that can reach over 5 centimeters in length, designed to grip and hold struggling animals. My carnassials, the 4th upper premolar and 1st lower molar, work like scissors to shear through hide and muscle. My molars are adapted for crushing bone, a crucial ability that lets me access marrow and extract maximum nutrition from every kill. My legs are long and my chest narrow, an anatomical configuration built for tireless travel. My front paws are larger than my hind paws, spreading my weight across snow and soft ground. Each paw carries 4 toes that leave tracks roughly 10 to 13 centimeters long, with claw marks visible in mud or snow. Unlike a domestic dog's wandering gait, my tracks form an almost straight line, each hind paw landing precisely in the print left by the front paw on the same side. This energy-efficient movement pattern allows me to cover ground at a steady trot of 8 to 9 kilometers per hour for hours without rest. When pursuing prey, I can accelerate to 55 or even 60 kilometers per hour in short bursts, though I rely more on stamina than speed. In a typical day, I may travel 30 kilometers. During seasonal migrations following prey herds, that distance can double. My tail is bushy and hangs down to my hocks, serving multiple functions. It aids balance when I twist and turn at speed, acts as a signal flag to communicate mood and status to my pack, and wraps around my nose and paws when I curl up to sleep in bitter cold, conserving heat. The black tip is nearly always present in gray wolves, a small marker of identity. My senses shape every moment of my existence. My sense of smell is perhaps 100,000 times more sensitive than a human's, though such comparisons are imprecise. I can detect the scent of a deer from over 2 kilometers away if the wind is favorable, distinguish between individual pack members by scent alone, and read the chemical stories left in urine marks days after they were deposited. My nose tells me which animals pass through this forest, their sex, reproductive status, stress levels, and health. I can smell fear in prey and confidence in rivals. Scent is my primary language, my historical record, my early warning system. My hearing extends into frequencies far beyond human range, detecting sounds up to 45 kilohertz or higher. I can hear a howl from my pack mates up to 10 kilometers away in open terrain, less in dense forest where vegetation absorbs sound. The shape of my ears, erect and mobile, allows me to pinpoint the source of a sound with remarkable accuracy. I can hear the heartbeat of a rabbit frozen in the grass, the rustle of a mouse beneath snow, the snap of a twig under a moose's hoof hundreds of meters away. My vision, often underestimated, serves me well in low light. My eyes contain a high proportion of rod cells and a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum that amplifies available light, giving me excellent night vision. This adaptation allows me to hunt effectively at dawn and dusk, the times when many prey species are most active. My color vision is limited compared to a human's, most sensitive to blues and yellows, but less able to distinguish reds and greens. This is not a deficit but a trade-off, prioritizing motion detection and low-light performance over color discrimination. I am exquisitely attuned to movement. A deer standing still in dappled shadow may escape my notice, but the flick of an ear or twitch of a tail triggers instant focus. The forest around me is waking. A raven calls from a tall spruce, its voice harsh and familiar. Ravens and wolves share a relationship that researchers have studied for decades. Ravens often follow us, waiting for kills, and sometimes seem to lead us toward prey or carrion. Whether this represents true cooperation or simply opportunism remains debated, but the association is ancient and consistent across our range. I watch the raven lift off and fly toward the valley. Perhaps it has seen something worth investigating. I stretch, extending each leg in turn, then shake vigorously, scattering loose fur into the morning air. Around me, the pack begins to stir. My mother, the alpha female, rises first, her movements deliberate and confident. She is 9 years old, a survivor, her muzzle graying and one ear torn from a fight years ago with a rival pack. My father, the alpha male, stands and approaches her, touching his nose to hers in greeting. This pair has led the pack for 5 years, a tenure that represents stability and success. Not all wolf packs are led by a mated alpha pair. Pack structure varies with ecology, history, and population density. In some areas, packs consist of a breeding pair and their offspring from multiple years. In others, unrelated individuals may join or packs may temporarily contain multiple breeding females. The term alpha itself, once universally applied, has been refined by researchers who now recognize that most wild packs are simply family groups, with the parents naturally holding leadership roles not through dominance contests, but through the social structure of parenthood. Our pack numbers 8 individuals. Besides the alpha pair, there is my older brother from a previous litter, now 3 years old and fully mature. 2 of my litter mates survived their first year, a sister and another brother, now yearlings like me. There is also an unrelated female who joined us last winter after her own pack was killed by humans, and a juvenile male from last year's litter. This size is typical. Wolf packs range from 2 individuals to over 30 in areas with exceptionally abundant prey, but most contain 4 to 8 members. Larger packs form when prey is large and abundant, allowing more mouths to share the spoils. Smaller packs suffice when prey is smaller or scarcer. We communicate constantly, though much of it is subtle. My mother's posture, tail high and ears forward, signals confidence and authority. My father approaches my older brother, who immediately lowers his body slightly and tucks his tail, licking at my father's muzzle in a gesture of submission and affiliation. These ritualized displays prevent conflict and reinforce social bonds. Serious fights within packs are rare but do occur, usually during breeding season or when resources are scarce and tension runs high. Injuries from intra-pack aggression are documented, and in extreme cases, individuals may be killed or driven out. But for the most part, we maintain cohesion through communication, not violence. The alpha pair moves to the center of our resting area and we gather around them. This is a daily ritual, a reaffirmation of pack unity. We press close, tails wagging, whining, and yipping softly. My mother and father lick faces, nip gently at ears and necks, and lean into the group. Then my father tilts his head back and releases a howl, low and rising, a sound that seems to come from the core of his being. My mother joins, her voice blending in harmony. One by one, we add our voices, each howl distinct in pitch and timbre, creating a chorus that announces our presence to the world. This is not random noise but structured communication. Howls serve to rally the pack before a hunt, to locate separated members, to warn rival packs away from our territory, and perhaps simply to reinforce our social bonds. Each wolf's howl is individually recognizable to pack members, and we can distinguish between the calls of our own pack and those of strangers. The chorus lasts perhaps a minute, then fades into silence. We listen. Far to the north, another pack answers, their howls faint but clear. They are distant, perhaps 8 or 9 kilometers away, and not an immediate threat. Our territory is roughly 350 square kilometers, an area we patrol and mark regularly. Territory size varies enormously depending on prey density and terrain. In areas with abundant deer or moose, territories may be as small as 100 square kilometers. In the Arctic tundra, where prey is scarce and migratory, a pack may claim over 1,000 square kilometers. We defend our territory against intrusions by other wolves, a behavior rooted in survival. Prey is the limiting resource, and allowing competitors access to our hunting grounds threatens our ability to feed ourselves. Territorial disputes are a leading cause of wolf mortality in many populations. Border areas, where territories overlap or shift, are particularly dangerous. Encounters between packs can escalate to violence, and lone wolves wandering in search of new territories are especially vulnerable. With the howling finished, the pack begins to move. We are heading toward the valley where the elk herd has been grazing for the past several days. Hunting is central to our existence, a complex and often exhausting endeavor that requires cooperation, patience, and a high tolerance for failure. Wolves are successful in only a fraction of their hunts. Estimates vary widely depending on prey species, terrain, and pack size, but success rates of 10 to 20% are common. Some hunts succeed more often, others far less. We must attempt many kills to secure the food we need. We travel in a loose line, the alpha pair in the front, the rest of us strung out behind. My father leads, his nose scanning constantly for scent, his eyes sweeping the forest. My mother walks beside or just behind him, equally alert. My older brother follows close behind, and the rest of us trail according to mood and energy. The young male lags slightly, distracted by a vole scent, but a low growl from my mother brings him back into line. Discipline during travel is important. Stragglers can become separated, and a lone wolf is vulnerable. We move through mixed forest, a mosaic of spruce, fir, pine, and aspen. The understory is thick with shrubs and fallen logs, remnants of a fire that burned through this area decades ago. Wolves inhabit an enormous range of habitats, from the frozen tundra of the Arctic to temperate forests, grasslands, deserts, and mountains. Historically, we were the most widely distributed land mammal after humans, ranging across the entire northern hemisphere from the Arctic to the deserts of Arabia and the mountains of Mexico. Our adaptability is our greatest strength. We can survive in areas with winter temperatures below -50 degrees Celsius and in desert regions where summer heat exceeds 40 degrees. The key is the presence of prey, and to a lesser extent, water and denning sites. Where large ungulates exist in sufficient numbers, wolves can persist. The landscape here, in what is now the northern Rocky Mountains of North America, is prime wolf habitat. Elk, deer, moose, and bison provide abundant prey. Forests offer cover for denning and concealment during hunts. Rivers and streams supply water year-round. This region was once devoid of wolves, extirpated by human persecution in the early 20th century, but reintroduction efforts in the mid-1990s restored our presence. Those reintroduced wolves, brought from Canada, are my ancestors. The recovery of wolves in this ecosystem has been closely studied, revealing cascading ecological effects. Our predation on elk altered their behavior, reducing overgrazing of streams and vegetation, which in turn allowed willows and aspens to recover, stabilizing stream banks and benefiting beavers, songbirds, and other species. This phenomenon, termed a trophic cascade, illustrates the role of apex predators in shaping entire ecosystems. We reach a ridge overlooking the valley and pause. Below, scattered across a meadow bisected by a meandering stream, are elk. I count roughly 60 individuals, cows and calves mostly, with a few young bulls. The mature bulls are elsewhere, still in their bachelor groups, their antlers just beginning to grow after being shed weeks ago. My father and mother scan the herd intently. They are looking for vulnerability. A healthy adult elk is a formidable opponent, capable of killing a wolf with a well-placed kick from sharp hooves. We target the young, the old, the sick, and the injured. This is not cruelty but necessity. An unsuccessful hunt costs us energy we cannot afford to waste. An injury to a pack member can be fatal. Natural selection has honed our ability to assess prey and choose targets that maximize success while minimizing risk. My mother's gaze fixes on a cow at the edge of the herd, somewhat separated from the others. The cow is thinner than her companions, her ribs visible, and she moves stiffly. Age, disease, or injury, we cannot know, but she is compromised. My mother glances at my father, and some silent agreement passes between them. The pack tenses, awaiting the signal. We begin our approach, moving slowly and deliberately down the slope. Stealth is important in the early phase, but elk have keen senses and inevitably detect us before we get close. The goal is to get near enough that, when the chase begins, we have a realistic chance of closing the distance before the herd reaches dense cover or exhausts us. The slope is gentle here, covered in knee-high grass and scattered wildflowers. Spring has brought new growth and the meadow is lush. We spread out slightly, not in a coordinated formation but simply spacing ourselves to cover more ground and prevent the herd from easily circling away. An elk cow spots us. She barks, a sharp alarm call, and the herd reacts instantly. Heads lift, bodies tense, and the group begins to move away from us, not in panicked flight yet but in wary retreat. The targeted cow moves with them, her gait uneven. We accelerate, shifting from a walk to a lope. The elk break into a run and the chase is on. Running through tall grass at speed is difficult. The ground is uneven, hidden by vegetation, and I must trust my footing with every stride. My packmates spread out, some angling to cut off the herd's escape route, others driving directly toward the targeted cow. Elk are fast, capable of reaching speeds of 70 kilometers per hour in short bursts and maintaining 45 kilometers per hour over longer distances. They are also agile, able to leap obstacles and navigate rough terrain with ease. Our advantage is endurance and cooperation. We can maintain pursuit for kilometers if necessary, and by working together, we can isolate an individual and attack from multiple angles. The herd splits. The healthier elk veer toward the tree line, their powerful legs carrying them swiftly away. The compromised cow, unable to keep pace, angles toward the stream. This is a mistake on her part, or perhaps a calculated gamble. Water can slow pursuers and complicate attacks, but it also limits her own maneuverability. My father and older brother pursue her directly, while my mother and the rest of us follow, ready to assist or intercept if she changes direction. The cow splashes into the stream, water spraying around her legs. The stream is perhaps 15 meters wide here, shallow and fast-moving. My father enters without hesitation, closing the distance. The cow struggles through the current, her exhaustion evident. My older brother reaches her first, lunging for her hind leg. His teeth close on her hock and he pulls, trying to unbalance her. She kicks, a powerful backward thrust that catches him in the shoulder and sends him sprawling into the water. He recovers quickly, unhurt but more cautious. My father reaches her flank and bites, his jaws seeking purchase on her hindquarters. The cow bellows, a sound of fear and fury, and wheels to face him, lowering her head. Elk can defend themselves effectively, and this one is not giving up. My mother arrives and attacks from the opposite side, biting at the other hind leg. The cow pivots, trying to keep both wolves in view, but the coordination is taking its toll. Blood stains the water, though the wounds are not yet serious. I reach the stream and wade in, my focus narrowed to the chaos ahead. My sister is beside me, and together we move to support the attack. The strategy is to exhaust the elk and inflict cumulative damage, targeting legs to impair mobility and flanks to weaken her through blood loss. Eventually, if the hunt succeeds, we will attempt to bring her down and deliver a killing bite to the throat or muzzle, suffocating her or severing major blood vessels. This process is neither quick nor clean, a reality of predation that is difficult but necessary. The cow stumbles, her injured leg buckling, and my father seizes the moment, driving forward and biting at her throat. She thrashes, trying to shake him off, but my mother and older brother press the attack on her hindquarters. I dart in and bite at her side, tasting blood and feeling the heat of her body. She swings her head toward me and I leap back, narrowly avoiding a blow. The violence is intense, primal and exhausting. Then suddenly, it is over. The cow collapses into the stream, her legs folding beneath her. My father maintains his grip on her throat, and within moments her struggles cease. The pack pauses, panting heavily, watching to ensure she does not rise again. She does not. The hunt has succeeded. We drag the carcass partially onto the bank, a collective effort that takes several minutes. Once she is positioned, the feeding begins. There is a hierarchy to feeding, though it is less rigid than sometimes portrayed. The alpha pair eats first, their status granting them priority access to the most nutritious parts. My father tears into the abdomen, accessing the liver, heart, and other organs that are rich in vitamins and minerals. My mother feeds beside him, and after a few minutes, the rest of us are allowed to join. Feeding is competitive but not chaotic. Snarls and snaps enforce personal space, and lower-ranking individuals wait their turn or grab scraps from the periphery. I manage to tear off a section of muscle from the hindquarter and retreat a few meters to eat without interference. The meat is warm and rich, the taste immediate and satisfying. I eat quickly, swallowing large chunks without much chewing. My stomach can hold up to 9 kilograms of meat in a single feeding, and after a successful kill, I will gorge myself, storing energy against the uncertainty of when the next meal will come. Wolves can survive for weeks without food if necessary, though such fasts come at a cost, burning through fat reserves and weakening the body. Feeding lasts for over an hour. By the time we finish, the carcass is largely consumed, though the hide, bones, and skull remain. These will be scavenged by ravens, eagles, bears, coyotes, and a host of smaller creatures. Very little goes to waste in nature. Our kill supports a web of life that extends far beyond our pack. Sated, we rest near the carcass. My belly is distended, and I feel sluggish and content. My father licks his muzzle clean, then sprawls on his side, eyes half closed. The pack spreads out in the grass, some grooming themselves, others simply lying still and digesting. This post-feeding rest is essential. Digestion requires energy, and moving too soon can be uncomfortable or even dangerous if the stomach is overfull. The sun climbs higher, warming the valley. Insects buzz around the remains of the elk, and a pair of ravens lands nearby, hopping closer with cautious curiosity. My mother watches them but does not drive them away. They will have their turn. As I rest, I reflect on the nature of hunger and satiation. For wolves, food is not guaranteed. Feast and famine are the rhythm of existence. A successful hunt like this one may be followed by days or even weeks of failed attempts, depending on prey availability and conditions. We evolved to cope with this unpredictability. Our bodies adapted to store energy efficiently and endure privation. Our social structure also buffers against starvation. By hunting cooperatively, we can take down prey far larger than any individual could manage alone, providing more food per kill. By traveling and living as a pack, we defend resources and territories, increasing our overall access to prey. After several hours, we begin to stir. The alpha pair rises first, as always, and the pack follows their lead. We leave the kill site and travel to a nearby stream to drink. Water is essential, especially after consuming large amounts of meat, which is high in protein and requires water for metabolic processing. I wade into the cool water and drink deeply, the cold liquid soothing and refreshing. From the stream, we move to a resting area in the forest, a site we have used before. It is a small clearing surrounded by dense spruce, offering concealment and shade. We settle in for the heat of the day, a time when activity is minimal. Wolves are crepuscular by preference, most active at dawn and dusk, though we adjust our activity patterns based on prey behavior, weather, and human presence. In areas where humans are active during the day, wolves often become more nocturnal. In remote areas with little disturbance, we may be active at any hour. The clearing is cool and quiet. I curl up in the shade, my tail over my nose, and drift into sleep. Sleep is not continuous but broken into periods of rest and wakefulness. Even while sleeping, part of my awareness remains alert, attuned to sounds and scents that might signal danger or opportunity. I dream, if that is the right word. Images and sensations flicker through my mind, fragments of memory and instinct. The chase, the taste of meat, the scent of my mother, the sound of howling. Research into animal cognition and dreaming is ongoing. And while it is clear that many mammals experience sleep stages similar to those in humans, including rapid eye movement sleep associated with dreaming, the subjective content of those dreams remains inaccessible to science. I can only report that something like memory and sensation persists even in rest, a mental processing that perhaps helps consolidate learning and experience. The day passes quietly. In late afternoon, we wake and groom ourselves. Grooming serves both hygiene and social functions. I lick my paws, cleaning dirt and blood from between my toes, then work on my coat, pulling out loose fur and debris. My sister approaches and begins to groom my neck and ears, areas I cannot easily reach myself. I return the favor, and we spend several minutes in this mutual care. Social grooming reinforces bonds and reduces parasites, ticks and fleas that inevitably inhabit our fur despite our efforts. As evening approaches, the pack becomes more active. We are not hungry yet, our bellies still full from this morning's kill, but the alpha pair leads us on a patrol of the territory's southern boundary. Territorial maintenance is a constant task. We must regularly mark and reinforce the boundaries to deter intrusions and signal our presence to neighboring packs. Scent marking is the primary method. We urinate and defecate at conspicuous locations, on rocks, stumps, trail intersections, and raised ground. These scent marks convey information about our identity, pack size, reproductive status, and the recency of our passage. Overmarking, where one wolf urinates directly on another's scent mark, is common and appears to function as a competitive signal. The alpha pair marks most frequently, and their marks are often placed higher and more prominently than those of subordinate pack members. We travel along a ridge that forms a natural boundary, the terrain dropping steeply to the south into another drainage. This area is contested. The neighboring pack to the south has been expanding, and we have had several encounters in recent months, none of them friendly. Tensions are high. My father pauses at a large boulder and sniffs carefully. A foreign scent, fresh, perhaps a day old. A wolf from the southern pack has marked here, a deliberate intrusion. My father's hackles rise and he overmarks the site, urinating forcefully and scraping the ground with his hind legs, leaving visual as well as olfactory signals. My mother joins him, adding her own mark. The message is clear: this is our territory. We continue the patrol, moving along the ridgeline and marking frequently. The air is cooling and the light is fading. Below, in the valley, elk are beginning to move toward their nighttime feeding areas. We watch them but make no move to hunt. We are not hungry, and unnecessary exertion is avoided. Energy conservation is a survival strategy as important as hunting skill. As darkness falls, we return to the core of our territory, to the den site where my mother gave birth to me and my littermates just over a year ago. The den is located on a south-facing slope, protected by a rocky outcrop and surrounded by thick vegetation. It is a natal den, used specifically for birthing and raising pups, and it is abandoned once the pups are old enough to travel with the pack, usually by late summer. We do not live in dens year-round, a common misconception. For most of the year, we rest in temporary sites, using the landscape opportunistically for shelter. Dens are critical only during the vulnerable weeks when pups are too small to follow the pack. The den itself is a tunnel dug into the earth, extending several meters back into the hillside and terminating in a chamber large enough for the mother and her pups. My mother dug this den herself, though wolves also use natural cavities, abandoned beaver lodges or dens excavated by other animals. The entrance is roughly 40 centimeters in diameter, large enough for an adult to squeeze through but small enough to offer protection. Inside, the chamber is dark and insulated, maintaining a stable temperature even when outside conditions fluctuate. I was born here in late April, one of 6 pups, though only 3 of us survived. Birth timing is remarkably consistent across wolf populations, occurring in spring when prey is abundant and weather is moderating, giving pups the best chance of survival. Gestation lasts approximately 63 days. My mother mated with my father in late February, during the brief breeding season that lasts only a few weeks each year. Wolves are unusual among canids in that typically only the alpha pair breeds, a pattern maintained through behavioral suppression of subordinate reproduction. In some packs, particularly larger or more fragmented ones, multiple females may breed, but this often leads to increased pup mortality due to resource competition. I have no memory of my first weeks, only instinct and fragments. I was born blind, deaf, and helpless, weighing perhaps 450 grams. My eyes opened at around 2 weeks and my hearing developed shortly after. My littermates and I spent our early days in near constant contact with our mother, nursing frequently. Wolf milk is rich, high in fat and protein, supporting rapid growth. By 3 weeks, we began to emerge from the den, exploring the immediate area under our mother's watchful eye. The pack brought food to the den, regurgitating meat for us and for our mother, who remained with us almost constantly during the first month. Play began early and served essential functions. We wrestled with our siblings, practicing bites, pins, and chases that would later translate into hunting and social skills. We learned to interpret body language and vocalizations, to understand hierarchy and submission, to control the force of our bites. Play is not frivolous but education, a safe context in which to develop competencies that will determine survival. By 8 weeks, we were weaned and eating solid meat exclusively. By 10 weeks, the pack abandoned the natal den and moved us to a rendezvous site, a centralized location where pups can be left while the adults hunt. Rendezvous sites are typically meadows or clearings with good visibility, water access, and nearby cover. We spent the summer at a series of such sites, growing rapidly, our legs lengthening, our teeth sharpening, our coordination improving. Babysitters, usually yearlings or other non-breeding adults, stayed with us while the rest of the pack hunted, protecting us from predators and providing companionship. By autumn, we were large enough and strong enough to travel with the pack, though still clumsy and inexperienced. The transition from stationary pup to traveling pack member is gradual and demanding. We had to learn to keep pace over long distances, to remain quiet and attentive during hunts, to read the landscape and our packmates. Not all pups succeed. Mortality in the first year is high, often exceeding 50% in some populations. Starvation, disease, predation by bears or other wolves, accidents, and human-caused mortality all take their toll. My 3 siblings who did not survive died within the first few months, 2 from disease, 1 from unknown causes, likely starvation during a period when prey was scarce. Standing now at the old den site, I am flooded with scent memories. My mother's milk, the warmth of the den, the smell of my litter mates. The site is empty now, dormant until next spring when my mother may return to give birth to a new litter. The cycle continues, generation after generation, as long as the land and prey sustain us. We rest near the den site, the pack sprawled in comfortable proximity. The night is clear, stars emerging in the darkening sky. Wolves do not navigate by stars as far as researchers know, but we are certainly aware of celestial patterns. Our navigation relies on memory, landmarks, scent trails, and possibly geomagnetic cues, though the latter remains an area of active study. We learn the terrain intimately, building cognitive maps that allow us to move efficiently across vast areas, find water and prey, avoid danger, and return to important sites. My father stands and stretches, then begins to howl. The sound rises, lonely and powerful, echoing across the hills. My mother joins, then the rest of us, voices layering into a wild chorus. Howling at night is common, perhaps more so than at other times, though wolves howl at any hour. The acoustic properties of nightfall, cooler air, and reduced ambient noise may allow howls to carry farther, enhancing communication. Or perhaps we howl simply because the pack is together, rested, and inclined to reaffirm our unity. The howling fades and silence returns, broken only by the rustle of wind through the trees and the distant gurgle of a stream. The night is ours, a time of movement and possibility. But tonight, we are content to rest. Tomorrow will bring new demands, new hunts, new challenges. For now, this moment of peace is enough. Days pass in a rhythm dictated by hunger, weather, and the movements of prey. We hunt every few days, sometimes successfully, often not. One hunt ends when a bull moose turns and charges, scattering the pack and injuring my older brother with a glancing blow from a front hoof. He limps for several days, a reminder of the risks we face. Another hunt succeeds when we find a deer fawn separated from its mother, an easy kill that provides a quick meal but not enough to sustain the pack for long. We scavenge occasionally, feeding on a bison carcass we find already dead, likely killed by winter cold and malnutrition. Scavenging is opportunistic and less dangerous than hunting, a bonus when available. Spring transitions into summer. The days grow longer and warmer. My mother's belly begins to swell, and we realize she is pregnant again. She becomes less active, conserving energy, and the pack adjusts, hunting closer to the den site and bringing her food. In late May, she retreats to a den, not the same one where I was born, but a different site several kilometers away, perhaps to reduce parasite load or because the old den was compromised in some way. She disappears underground, and we do not see her for days. When she finally emerges, she is thinner, her teeth swollen with milk. She has given birth, but we do not yet know how many pups survived. For the next several weeks, the pack's focus shifts entirely to supporting her and the new litter. We hunt frequently, bringing meat back to the den and regurgitating it for her. She eats ravenously, her body demanding enormous energy to produce milk and care for the pups. My father is attentive, bringing her food and resting near the den entrance, a guardian and provider. I, now a yearling, take on new responsibilities. I am old enough to help provision the den and later to babysit the pups at rendezvous sites. This role is common in wolf packs. Yearlings and other non-breeding adults contribute to pup rearing, an example of cooperative breeding that enhances pup survival and pack cohesion. My investment in my younger siblings. Survival is not altruistic in the human moral sense, but rather a product of kin selection, an evolutionary strategy in which helping relatives pass on shared genes increases my own genetic legacy. By mid-June, the pups begin to emerge from the den. There are 5 this year, wriggling bundles of dark fur with oversized paws and clumsy gaits. They tumble over each other, exploring the world with wide eyes and clumsy curiosity. I watch them from a distance, feeling something I cannot name, an instinctive pull toward their vulnerability and need. When the pack leaves to hunt, I stay behind, along with my sister, and we keep watch. The pups play near the den entrance, venturing a few meters out, then scurrying back at any sudden sound. A raven flies overhead and they freeze, staring upward with comical intensity. An eagle could take a pup this small, as could a bear or a cougar. Our presence deters most threats, but vigilance is constant. One afternoon, while the pack is away, a black bear approaches the den site. It is a young male, perhaps drawn by the scent of meat scraps and wolf activity. I see him first, a dark shape moving through the tree's upslope. My hackles rise and I bark an alarm, a sharp, staccato sound. My sister joins me, and together we position ourselves between the bear and the den. The pups, hearing our alarm, vanish into the den entrance. The bear pauses, assessing us. He is larger than either of us, easily 150 kilograms, but we are not alone and we are defending young. I bark again, louder, and take a step toward him, my body stiff and tail raised. My sister mirrors my posture. The bear huffs, a sound of uncertainty, and swings his head back and forth. He takes a step forward, testing our resolve. I lunge toward him, snapping my jaws and snarling, stopping just short of contact. This display of aggression is risky. If he charges, we may not be able to stop him. But bears are generally cautious around wolves, aware that a pack can kill even a large bear if motivated. This bear is alone and uncertain. After a long, tense moment, he turns and ambles away, glancing back once before disappearing into the forest. My sister and I hold our ground for several more minutes, then relax. The pups, sensing the danger has passed, peek out from the den entrance, their eyes bright with curiosity. When the pack returns, we report the encounter through scent and behavior, sniffing and licking each other, communicating what happened. My mother inspects the pups carefully, her anxiety evident, then settles near the den entrance, her body a barrier. The bear does not return. Summer progresses and the pups grow rapidly. By 8 weeks, they are boisterous and strong, their personalities emerging. One is bold and pushy, always first to the food. Another is cautious, hanging back and watching before acting. These temperamental differences will shape their future roles in the pack and their survival prospects. Play becomes more complex, incorporating stalking, ambushes, and mock battles that mirror real hunting tactics. They chase insects, pounce on each other, and engage in endless games of keep away with sticks and bones. In early July, my mother moves the pups from the den to a rendezvous site, a meadow near a beaver pond where water is plentiful and the terrain open. The pack begins using this site as a base, radiating out to hunt and returning to rest and interact with the pups. I spend much of my time here, part babysitter, part playmate. The pups are endlessly energetic, and their antics are both entertaining and exhausting. One afternoon, they discover a deer leg bone left from a recent kill and engage in a fierce tug-of-war, growling and shaking their heads with exaggerated ferocity. The bone is too large for any of them to carry alone, but they refuse to give up, and the game continues until they collapse in a heap, panting and satisfied. Gradually, the pups learn the skills they will need. They practice biting, learning to modulate force so as not to injure their siblings. They learn to interpret body language, recognizing play bows, submissive postures, and aggressive displays. They begin to follow the adults on short excursions, their legs still too short for serious travel, but their enthusiasm boundless. By late summer, they are joining the pack on hunts, though they remain largely observers, watching and learning as the adults work. Autumn arrives and the landscape transforms. Leaves turn gold and red, then fall, carpeting the forest floor. The air sharpens, night frosts appear, and the elk begin their rut. Bull elk, which spent the summer in bachelor groups, now compete for access to females. Their bugling echoes through the valleys, eerie and haunting, a sound that triggers something ancient in me. The rut is a time of distraction and vulnerability for elk. Bulls exhaust themselves fighting and herding harems, losing weight and vigilance. We take advantage, hunting more successfully during this period than at almost any other time of year. One evening, we come upon a rutting bull, his neck swollen, his antlers massive. He is herding a group of cows, chasing off rival bulls and attempting to mate. He is so focused on his rivals that he does not notice us until we are close. When he finally sees us, he does not flee but stands his ground, bellowing and lowering his antlers. This is a dangerous situation. A bull elk in rut is aggressive and unpredictable, fueled by testosterone and adrenaline. We do not press the attack but instead watch and wait. Eventually, the bull turns his attention back to his harem and we withdraw. He is too dangerous, too strong, too alert despite his distraction. We seek easier prey. We find it 2 days later, a young bull, perhaps 2 years old, limping badly from a fight with a larger rival. His rear leg is injured and he has separated from the main herds, a solitary and vulnerable figure. The pack mobilizes quickly and the hunt is almost anticlimactic. He cannot run, cannot defend himself effectively, and within minutes he is down. We feed well and the kill sustains us for several days. As autumn deepens, the pups are nearly full grown, though still lighter and less experienced than the adults. They are testing boundaries, establishing their places in the hierarchy, and beginning to exhibit the behaviors that will define their futures. The bold pup from earlier has become increasingly assertive, challenging my sister, and even on occasion my older brother. These challenges are usually ritualistic, more about status negotiation than serious conflict, but they signal the emergence of adult social dynamics. Winter arrives with heavy snow. The temperature plummets, and the landscape transforms into a monochrome expanse of white and shadow. This is a challenging time, but also a time when our adaptations shine. My thick winter coat insulates me against cold that would kill a human in hours. My large paws distribute my weight across snow, allowing me to travel more easily than many prey species, which post-hole and exhaust themselves. Prey animals, weakened by cold and scarce forage, become more vulnerable, and our hunting success increases. We follow elk and deer herds as they move to lower elevations and concentrate in areas where forage is accessible. The herds are larger now, seeking safety in numbers, but this also makes them easier to locate. One bitter morning, we find a herd of over 200 elk gathered in a river valley, pawing through snow to reach dormant grasses. We watch from a distance, selecting targets. An old cow, her hip bones prominent, moves stiffly. She is our choice. The hunt is brutal and exhausting. The snow is deep, over half a meter in places, and every stride is an effort. The elk, larger and with longer legs, initially maintain distance, but endurance favors us. We pursue for over an hour, the pace relentless. The old cow begins to falter, her breaths labored, her movements sluggish. Finally, she stops, turning to face us, unable or unwilling to run further. The pack closes in and the end comes quickly. We feed in the falling snow, our muzzles and chests stained red, steam rising from the carcass in the frigid air. Winter is also a time of danger for us. Deep snow, though an advantage in hunting, limits mobility and increases energy expenditure. Prey can become scarce if herds migrate out of our territory or if snow buries forage too deeply. Starvation is a real risk, especially for the pups, now juveniles who lack the fat reserves of adults. Injuries, minor in summer, can become fatal in winter when infection is more likely and healing is slowed by cold and limited nutrition. Human activity is another constant threat, one that has shaped wolf populations and behavior for centuries. Humans are the primary source of wolf mortality in most regions. Hunting, trapping, vehicle collisions, illegal killing, and government-sponsored culls all contribute to high death rates. In this region, wolves are legally hunted and trapped outside protected areas, and even within parks, illegal killings occur. Humans also alter the landscape, fragmenting habitat, reducing prey populations through hunting, and introducing diseases via domestic animals. Livestock depredation brings us into direct conflict with ranchers, resulting in lethal control measures. Despite legal protections in some areas, wolves remain persecuted in many parts of their range. My own pack has lost members to humans. 2 years before I was born, a yearling female was shot by a hunter who mistook her for a coyote, a common and often convenient claim. Last year, my uncle, one of my mother's brothers, was caught in a leg-hold trap near the territory boundary and died of his injuries before the pack found him. These losses are personal and also statistical, part of the grinding attrition that shapes wolf demography. In some populations, human-caused mortality exceeds 50% annually, a rate that can drive populations into decline if not offset by reproduction and immigration. Yet wolves are resilient. Our reproductive potential is high. A healthy pack can produce 4 to 6 pups per year, and in areas where mortality is high, packs may produce larger litters or multiple litters. Dispersal, the process by which young wolves leave their natal packs to find mates and establish new territories, allows populations to recolonize vacant habitats and maintain genetic diversity. Dispersing wolves are risk-takers, traveling hundreds of kilometers through unfamiliar and often hostile terrain in search of opportunity. Many die during dispersal, killed by resident packs, humans, or starvation. But those who succeed become the founders of new packs and the carriers of genetic variation. I am approaching the age when dispersal becomes likely. Yearlings and 2-year-olds are the most common dispersers, driven by a combination of social pressure, lack of breeding opportunities within the natal pack, and perhaps an innate restlessness. Some wolves never disperse, remaining with their natal pack for life and helping to raise siblings. Others leave, and if they find a mate and territory, breed and form new packs. Still, others become lone wolves, wandering for months or years without establishing a territory, eking out an existence on the margins of established packs and human landscapes. The decision to disperse is not conscious in the human sense, but driven by instinct and circumstance. If my pack is stable, prey abundant, and my status within the pack acceptable, I may stay. If conditions deteriorate, or if I am continually harassed by higher-ranking individuals, or if the scent of a potential mate drifts in on the wind, I may leave. The future is uncertain, a product of forces beyond my control. Spring returns, completing the cycle. The snow melts, streams swell with runoff, and the first green shoots emerge. Elk and deer give birth, flooding the landscape with vulnerable calves and fawns. This is a time of plenty, a bonanza that allows the pack to recover from winter's deprivations. We hunt newborns, an easy and abundant food source, and feed well. My mother retreats to a den once more, and the cycle of birth and rearing begins again. I am now 2 years old, fully mature in body if not yet in status. I weigh 52 kilograms, my frame muscular and my coat thick and healthy. I am a competent hunter, a reliable pack member, and increasingly restless. The scent of a young female from a neighboring pack has reached me several times in recent weeks, carried on the breeze from the south. She is a disperser, I think, or perhaps a lone wolf from a pack that was killed or fragmented. Her scent is intriguing, triggering urges I do not fully understand but cannot ignore. One evening, after a successful hunt and a long rest, I make a decision. I walk to the edge of the pack gathering, away from the center where my parents rest. My older brother watches me, his gaze steady but not hostile. My sister whines softly, a sound of concern or farewell. My mother lifts her head, her eyes meeting mine. There is no drama, no confrontation, only a moment of mutual understanding. Then I turn and walk away into the forest, following the scent trail that has haunted me for days. Dispersal is disorienting. I am alone for the first time in my life, without the security of the pack, without the familiar scents and sounds that have defined my existence. Every sound is sharper, every scent more vivid, every shadow a potential threat. I travel south, moving through unfamiliar terrain, crossing ridges and valleys I have never seen. I avoid established pack territories when I can, detecting scent marks and steering wide to reduce the risk of confrontation. Lone wolves are vulnerable, often killed by resident packs defending their territories. I am cautious, my senses straining for warnings. I travel at night mostly, resting during the day in thick cover. Food is difficult. Without the pack, hunting large prey is nearly impossible. I catch a rabbit, a lucky pounce that provides a small meal. I scavenge a deer carcass, old and rank but edible. I go hungry more often than not, my body burning through fat reserves. Weight drops from my frame and my ribs begin to show. This is the reality of dispersal, a gauntlet that tests endurance, luck, and resourcefulness. After 2 weeks of travel, I cross into a region where scent marks are sparse and old, suggesting no resident pack. The terrain is rugged, less productive than my natal territory but vacant. I continue south, following the scent of the female. Her trail is intermittent, days old in places, fresher in others. She is moving, searching as I am. I find her on a morning in late May, near a creek lined with willows. She is smaller than I, lean and wary, her coat a lighter gray than mine. She sees me and freezes, her body tense. I approach slowly, carefully, my posture non-threatening, tail low, ears relaxed. She watches, evaluating. I stop several meters away and lower myself into a play bow, an invitation, a signal of peaceful intent. She hesitates, then takes a step forward. We touch noses, scenting each other, exchanging information. She is young, perhaps my age, and alone. Her pack was killed, I learned through scent and subtle behavioral cues, shot by ranchers after a livestock depredation incident. She is the sole survivor, dispersed not by choice but by necessity. Over the following days, we remain together, a tentative partnership. We hunt cooperatively, our combined efforts allowing us to take down a young deer, our first real success. We howl together in the evenings, our voices blending, staking a claim to this vacant territory. Slowly, cautiously, a bond forms. We are not yet a pack, not yet a breeding pair, but the foundation is laid. If we survive, if prey remains available, if humans do not kill us, we may establish a territory, mate, and raise pups. We may become the alpha pair of a new pack, our offspring the next generation. Or we may die, victims of starvation, disease, conflict, or human violence. The future is uncertain, as it always has been for wolves. But in this moment, we are alive together, and the possibilities stretch out before us like the vast landscape we inhabit. We are wolves, shaped by millions of years of evolution, survivors of ice ages and human expansion, predators and parents, individuals and members of a social whole larger than ourselves. We are part of the ecosystem, woven into the fabric of life in ways both obvious and subtle. Our presence influences prey behavior, vegetation growth, scavenger populations, and nutrient cycling. We are, in the language of ecology, a keystone species, one whose impact on the environment exceeds what might be predicted by our numbers alone. Understanding wolves requires moving beyond myth and fear, beyond the fairy tales and folklore that have demonized us for centuries. We are not evil, not vengeful, not the bloodthirsty monsters of human imagination, nor are we the noble, mystical creatures of romantic fantasy. We are animals, complex and capable, driven by the same evolutionary imperatives that shape all life, survival and reproduction. We kill to eat, not for sport. We form bonds not out of morality, but because cooperation enhances survival. We communicate, learn, adapt, and endure. Scientific study of wolves has exploded in recent decades, driven by advances in tracking technology, genetics, and ecological theory. Researchers use GPS collars to follow wolves across vast landscapes, documenting movement patterns, territory sizes, and habitat use. Genetic analysis reveals population structure, relatedness, and the legacy of historical bottlenecks and expansions. Behavioral studies, both in captivity and the wild, illuminate social dynamics, communication systems, and cognitive abilities. This research has overturned many assumptions and continues to reveal the complexity of wolf biology and ecology. One area of ongoing research is wolf intelligence and problem-solving ability. Wolves demonstrate sophisticated social cognition, capable of recognizing individual pack members by sight, sound, and scent, understanding dominance hierarchies, and cooperating in coordinated hunts. Experimental studies suggest wolves can learn through observation, solve novel problems, and even understand human gestures in some contexts, though they are less willing than domestic dogs to cooperate with humans. This comparative work highlights the evolutionary pathways that led to dog domestication and the behavioral changes that accompanied that process. Another active research area is wolf vocalizations. In addition to howls, wolves produce a diverse repertoire of sounds, including barks, growls, whines, and whimpers. Each serves specific communicative functions. Barks are alarm calls, alerting the pack to danger. Growls signal aggression or possession of resources. Whines and whimpers are often affiliative, used between mothers and pups or between bonded individuals to solicit attention or food. Howls, the most studied vocalization, vary in structure and appear to convey information about individual identity, pack size, and emotional state. Recent studies using playback experiments show that wolves can distinguish between the howls of pack members and strangers and respond differently depending on context. Wolf predation and its effects on prey populations is another major research focus. Early models suggested wolves could regulate prey numbers, preventing overpopulation and overgrazing. More recent work reveals a more nuanced picture. Wolf predation can reduce prey abundance, but the effect depends on prey density, alternative prey availability, habitat quality, and human hunting pressure. In some systems, wolves primarily kill vulnerable individuals, old, young, sick, or injured, a pattern termed compensatory mortality because these individuals might have died anyway. In other systems, Wolf predation is additive, increasing total mortality and potentially limiting prey populations. The reality is often a mix, varying over time and space. What is clear is that wolves exert selective pressure on prey, favoring traits like vigilance, speed, and defensive behavior, and thereby shaping prey evolution. The reintroduction of wolves to Yellowstone National Park in the mid-1990s has become one of the most studied ecological experiments in history. Wolves were absent from the park for nearly 70 years, extirpated by government eradication programs. Their return initiated a cascade of ecological changes. Elk populations, which had grown large in the absence of predation, declined and altered their behavior, avoiding areas where they were vulnerable to wolf attack. This behavioral shift, termed a landscape of fear, reduced browsing pressure on riparian vegetation, allowing willows, cottonwoods, and aspens to recover. Beaver populations increased, benefiting from more abundant forage and building dams that created wetland habitat. Songbirds, amphibians, and aquatic invertebrates proliferated in these wetlands. Scavengers, including ravens, eagles, bears, and coyotes, benefited from wolf-killed carcasses. Coyote populations, previously dominant mesopredators, declined due to direct killing by wolves, releasing pressure on smaller prey like rodents and rabbits, which in turn affected vegetation and raptor populations. This web of interactions, termed a trophic cascade, illustrates the profound influence of apex predators on ecosystem structure and function. Not all ecosystems respond to wolf presence in the same way, and trophic cascades are not universal. In some regions, other factors like climate, human activity, or landscape fragmentation override the effects of predation. The Yellowstone case is instructive but not a template applicable everywhere. Context matters, and each wolf population and ecosystem must be understood on its own terms. Human attitudes toward wolves are deeply polarizing. Conservationists celebrate wolf recovery as a victory for biodiversity and ecosystem integrity. Ranchers and rural communities often view wolves as threats to livelihoods, sources of livestock loss and economic hardship. Hunters sometimes see wolves as competitors for game animals. These conflicting perspectives fuel ongoing debates over wolf management, legal protections, and lethal control measures. Finding common ground requires acknowledging legitimate concerns on all sides, compensating ranchers for livestock losses, investing in non-lethal deterrents like range riders and guard animals, and managing wolf populations to balance ecological and social objectives. Wolf conservation is a global issue. In North America, wolf populations have recovered in some regions, but remain absent or scarce in much of their historical range. In Europe, wolves are slowly expanding from strongholds in Eastern Europe and the Balkans into Western Europe, recolonizing Germany, France, and other countries, often sparking intense conflict. In Asia, wolf populations are less well studied and their status varies widely. Some populations are stable, others declining due to habitat loss, prey depletion, and persecution. Throughout their range, wolves face threats from humans, directly through hunting and trapping, and indirectly through habitat destruction and prey reduction. Legal protections vary by country and region. In the United States, wolves are protected under the Endangered Species Act in some areas and managed as game animals in others, a complex patchwork that reflects political and biological realities. In Canada, wolves are not listed as threatened or endangered and are hunted and trapped in most provinces and territories. In Europe, wolves are protected under the Berne Convention and the European Union's Habitats Directive, though enforcement and public support vary. In many parts of Asia and the Middle East, wolves have little or no legal protection and are actively persecuted. Effective wolf conservation requires not only legal protection, but also habitat preservation, prey conservation, conflict mitigation, and public education. It requires long-term monitoring to assess population trends and ecological impacts, adaptive management that responds to new information, and collaboration among scientists, managers, landowners, and communities. It requires recognizing that wolves are part of the natural heritage of many regions, integral to ecosystems and cultural landscapes, deserving of coexistence rather than eradication. The ethical dimensions of wolf conservation are profound. Wolves are sentient beings, capable of suffering and experiencing complex social bonds. Killing wolves, whether for management purposes or in retaliation for livestock losses, involves moral considerations that extend beyond economics or ecology. Some argue that wolves have intrinsic value, independent of their utility to humans, and deserve protection on ethical grounds. Others prioritize human livelihoods and safety, arguing that wolf populations should be controlled to minimize conflict. Navigating these ethical terrain requires humility, empathy, and a willingness to listen to diverse perspectives. As I stand beside my new mate in this vacant territory, the future of our species weighs on me, though I do not consciously grasp it in those terms. I am focused on immediate needs, finding food, avoiding danger, establishing a territory, surviving another day. Yet my survival, and the survival of my potential offspring, is connected to forces far larger than myself. Human decisions about land use, wildlife management, climate change, and conservation funding will shape the world I inhabit. The attitudes of people I will never meet, living in cities I will never see, will influence whether wolves persist or decline in the coming decades. Climate change is already altering the landscapes wolves inhabit. Warmer winters reduce snow depth, affecting prey vulnerability and hunting success. Shifts in vegetation zones alter prey distribution and abundance. Droughts reduce water availability, stressing both predators and prey. Disease dynamics may change, with warmer temperatures expanding the range of parasites and pathogens. How wolves will respond to these changes is uncertain. Our adaptability is a strength, but there are limits to what any species can endure. Disease is a natural and often significant factor in wolf populations. We are susceptible to a range of pathogens, including canine distemper virus, parvovirus, rabies, mange, and various parasites. Outbreaks can devastate packs, particularly in areas where wolves live at high densities or come into contact with domestic dogs, which can transmit diseases. Mange, caused by parasitic mites, is particularly debilitating, leading to hair loss, skin infection, and often death from hypothermia or secondary infections. Rabies, though rare in wolves, is fatal and poses risks to both wolves and humans. Monitoring and managing disease in wild wolf populations is challenging but important for conservation. Genetic diversity is another concern, particularly in small or isolated populations. Inbreeding can reduce fitness, increasing susceptibility to disease and reducing reproductive success. Isle Royale, an island in Lake Superior that supported a small wolf population for decades, experienced severe inbreeding due to isolation, leading to physical deformities and population decline. Managers eventually introduced new wolves from the mainland to restore genetic diversity. This case illustrates the importance of connectivity between populations, allowing gene flow that maintains genetic health. Wolf-dog hybridization is another issue, particularly in regions where wolf populations are small and dogs are abundant. Hybrids can dilute wolf genetics and alter behavior, potentially reducing the fitness of wild populations. In some regions, Hybridization is extensive, raising questions about what constitutes a pure wolf and how to manage hybrid populations. This is both a biological and a philosophical question, touching on issues of conservation goals and species definitions. Despite the challenges, wolves have demonstrated remarkable resilience. From near extinction in the continental United States in the early 20th century, populations have rebounded in the northern Rockies, Great Lakes region, and Pacific Northwest. Yellowstone's wolves, descendants of just 31 individuals reintroduced in 1995 and 1996, now number over 90 individuals across several packs. In Europe, wolves have recolonized areas from which they were absent for a century. These recoveries are testaments to the species' adaptability and to the efforts of conservationists, scientists, and policymakers who fought for protection and reintroduction. Yet recovery is fragile. Delisting wolves from endangered species protections often leads to increased hunting and trapping, rapidly reducing populations. Political winds shift, and protections can be weakened or removed. Maintaining wolf populations requires sustained commitment, not just legal frameworks but social acceptance and conflict mitigation. The challenge is to move beyond the polarized narratives, to find ways for wolves and people to coexist in landscapes that are increasingly dominated by human activity. Education plays a crucial role. Misunderstanding and fear drive much of the opposition to wolves. Correcting myths, wolf attacks on humans are extraordinarily rare. Wolves do not decimate game populations but rather shape them in complex ways. Wolves are not surplus killers but efficient predators. Requires accessible and accurate information. Schools, nature centers, documentaries, and online platforms all contribute to public understanding. Personal encounters with wolves, whether in the wild or through wildlife tourism, can shift attitudes, fostering appreciation and empathy. Wildlife tourism centered on wolves has become economically significant in some regions. Yellowstone attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors each year hoping to see wolves, generating millions of dollars in economic activity for surrounding communities. This provides a powerful economic argument for wolf conservation, demonstrating that wolves have value beyond their ecological roles. However, tourism also has impacts, potentially altering wolf behavior, increasing stress, and concentrating human activity in sensitive areas. Managing these impacts requires careful planning and regulation. The cultural significance of wolves varies widely. Indigenous peoples across the Northern Hemisphere have long coexisted with wolves, incorporating them into mythology, spiritual practices, and art. Many indigenous cultures view wolves with respect, as teachers, relatives, or symbols of strength and endurance. In contrast, European settlers in North America brought with them a legacy of fear and hatred, rooted in medieval European folklore where wolves were associated with evil and danger. This cultural baggage influenced policies of eradication that nearly drove wolves to extinction. Reconciling these diverse cultural perspectives is part of the broader challenge of wolf conservation. Wolves appear in literature, film, and art, often as symbols or archetypes. The big bad wolf of fairy tales embodies fear and predation. The lone wolf represents independence and rugged individualism. The wolf pack symbolizes loyalty and teamwork. These cultural constructions, while not biologically accurate, shape how people perceive real wolves and influence conservation debates. Challenging and complicating these narratives is part of the work of education and advocacy. As I settle into this new territory with my mate, the summer unfolds. We hunt together, developing coordination and efficiency. We bring down deer, scavenge a road-killed elk, and catch smaller prey when necessary. We mark our territory, establishing boundaries and warning others away. We howl in the evenings, our voices carrying across the valleys, staking our claim. Slowly, the territory becomes familiar, mapped in scent and memory. We learn where prey congregates, where water is reliable, where denning sites might be suitable. Autumn arrives and we face a decision. Mating season is months away, but if we are to breed and raise pups next spring, we must survive the winter and maintain the territory. The challenges are significant. Winter will bring cold, snow, and reduced prey availability. We are a small pack, just the two of us, and hunting large prey is more difficult with fewer hunters. We will need luck, skill, and endurance. We hunt elk throughout the autumn, our success rate modest. Some hunts fail entirely, the elk outrunning us or escaping into thick cover. Other hunts succeed, providing meat that sustains us for days. We also scavenge, finding a bison carcass in a river, likely drowned during a crossing. The carcass is frozen, but we gnaw at it over several days, extracting calories and nutrients. Scavenging is less glorious than hunting, but no less important. Winter arrives, harsh and unforgiving. Snow piles deep and temperatures plunge. My mate and I travel constantly, searching for prey, our bodies lean and our energy reserves dwindling. We find a herd of deer yarded up in a dense forest, seeking shelter from the cold. Yarding behavior, where deer congregate in limited areas with thermal cover and accessible forage, makes them vulnerable to predation but also more difficult to approach without detection. We stalk carefully, using the terrain and wind to our advantage. The hunt is tense, every step deliberate. We succeed, bringing down a doe and feed heavily, our hunger temporarily sated. We survive the winter, a testament to skill and fortune. Spring returns, and with it the possibility of new life. My mate enters estrus, a brief window of fertility that lasts only a few days. We mate, the act quick and biologically driven, and then wait. If she conceives, gestation will last roughly 63 days. She will need to find a den, and we will need to secure enough food to support her and the pups. She chooses a den site on a hillside overlooking a creek, a tunnel dug into soft earth beneath a rock outcrop. She excavates and modifies the tunnel, working over several days to prepare the chamber. I bring her food, hunting alone, a difficult and often unsuccessful endeavor. But I persist and we manage. In early May, she retreats into the den and does not emerge. Days pass. I rest near the entrance, alert for threats, venturing out only to hunt and drink. Then one morning I hear faint sounds from within the den, high-pitched whimpers and squeaks. Pups, she has given birth. I do not know how many, not yet, but the sound is unmistakable. Over the following weeks I hunt constantly, bringing meat back to the den and leaving it at the entrance. She emerges briefly to eat, her body gaunt, her teeth swollen and leaking milk. She eats quickly, then returns to the pups. I catch glimpses of them when she exits, tiny dark forms wriggling in the dim light. By 3 weeks they begin to emerge, unsteady on their feet, their eyes open and curious. There are 4 of them, 2 males and 2 females as far as I can tell. They are our first litter, the foundation of a new pack. The responsibility is immense. We are now providers and protectors, responsible for these helpless creatures who depend entirely on us. The pups grow rapidly, their demands for food increasing. I hunt more than I ever have, pushing my body to the limits, ranging farther in search of prey. My mate remains with the pups most of the time, nursing and guarding them, though she occasionally joins me on hunts when the pups are old enough to be left alone briefly. By midsummer, the pups are weaned and eating solid meat. They play endlessly, their games a mix of coordination, practice, and social learning. They chase each other, wrestle, and engage in mock battles that sometimes escalate into real squabbles. Hierarchy is already emerging, one male more assertive, one female more cautious. These early patterns may predict their future roles, but much can change as they mature. We move the pups to a rendezvous site, a meadow with good visibility and nearby cover. Here, they have more space to explore and play, and we can leave them for longer periods while hunting. They are still vulnerable, especially to bears and other predators, but they are also learning, their senses and instincts developing rapidly. One afternoon, a golden eagle circles overhead, its shadow passing over the meadow. The pups freeze, instinct warning them of danger. I watch the eagle closely. It is large enough to take a small pup, and attacks on young wolves have been documented, though they are rare. The eagle circles lower, and I position myself between it and the pups, my body tense. The eagle makes another pass, then veers away, perhaps deterred by my presence or deciding the risk is too great. The pups remain frozen for several more seconds, then slowly relax and resume playing. They have learned a lesson: the sky is not safe. As summer progresses, the pups grow larger and more competent. By autumn, they are nearly full-size, though still gangly and inexperienced. They begin to accompany us on hunts, though more as observers than participants. They watch as we stalk, chase, and kill, absorbing the lessons that will determine their survival. Some hunts they watch from a distance. Others they attempt to join, their enthusiasm often disrupting our coordination and causing the prey to escape. We tolerate their mistakes, understanding that learning is essential. The family dynamic shifts as the pups mature. They are no longer helpless dependents but contributing members, albeit inexperienced ones. They help guard kills, chasing away ravens and coyotes. They participate in howling, adding their voices to the chorus. They play a role in scent marking, learning the boundaries of the territory and the importance of communication. They are becoming wolves, shaped by instinct, observation, and experience. By the time winter arrives, the pack numbers 6, my mate and I, the 4 surviving pups. This is a viable pack size, large enough to hunt cooperatively and defend territory, small enough that food can be shared without excessive competition. The pups are still subordinate, their behaviors deferential, but they are growing in confidence and capability. Winter is again challenging, but we are stronger now, a cohesive unit. We hunt together and our success rate improves. The pups, though still learning, contribute to chases and attacks, their energy and enthusiasm valuable assets. We bring down elk and deer, feed well when we succeed, and endure when we fail. The cycle continues, seasons turning, life and death intertwined. Years pass. The original 4 pups mature and some eventually disperse, seeking their own territories and mates. Others remain, helping to raise subsequent litters. My mate and I continue to lead, producing new pups each spring, though not every litter survives. Some years are lean, prey scarce, and pups starve. Other years are abundant and multiple pups reach adulthood. The pack size fluctuates, sometimes as small as 4, other times as large as 10. We face challenges. A neighboring pack expands, encroaching on our territory, and we engage in several violent encounters. In one clash, my mate is injured, a bite to her shoulder that becomes infected. She recovers, but the infection weakens her and she is slower for weeks. We also lose pack members to humans. One of our daughters is shot by a hunter who mistakes her for a coyote, the same tired excuse. Another son is killed on a highway, struck by a vehicle while crossing at night. These losses are painful, disruptive, but we adapt. The pack reorganizes, roles shift, and life continues. As I age, my body begins to show the toll of years. My muzzle grays, my joints stiffen, my teeth wear down. I am slower in the chase, less aggressive in confrontations. My mate too ages, though she remains vigorous. Younger pack members begin to challenge our authority subtly, testing boundaries, asserting themselves. This is natural, the inevitable progression as one generation gives way to the next. One spring, my mate does not den. She is old now, perhaps 12 years, and her reproductive years may be ending. Wolf females can breed into their 10th year or beyond, but fertility declines with age, and the physical demands of raising pups become more challenging. Instead, one of our daughters, now 4 years old and fully mature, breeds with an unrelated male who joined the pack the previous year. She dens, and we become grandparents in a sense, supporting her as we once supported our own pups. The cycle repeats, generations overlapping, the pack persisting. My role shifts. I'm no longer the primary hunter, that responsibility falling to younger, stronger pack members. I'm no longer the alpha male, having been gradually displaced by my daughter's mate, a process that was more about attrition than conflict. I remain a valued member, my experience and knowledge still assets. I help guard kills, assist in babysitting, and contribute to territorial defense. But I am diminishing, and I know it in the ache of my bones and the shortness of my breath. One winter, the cold is particularly severe. Prey is scarce, scattered, and wary. The pack hunts constantly, but success is elusive. We go days without eating, our bodies consuming themselves, fat and then muscle, to sustain basic functions. I am weaker than the others, my reserves depleted more quickly. I struggle to keep pace during travel, often lagging behind. The pack does not abandon me, not intentionally, but they cannot afford to slow for my sake. The survival of the pack, especially the young, depends on maintaining the pace. One morning after a failed hunt, I cannot rise. My legs will not support me, my body too weak. The pack gathers around me, whining and licking my face, their concern evident. My mate, old herself, lies beside me, her warmth a comfort. But eventually the pack must move on, must continue the search for food. They leave, glancing back, their reluctance clear. My mate lingers longest, but finally she too departs. I am alone. I lie in the snow, my breath shallow, my heart slow. The cold seeps in, but I no longer feel it acutely. My mind drifts, images and sensations flickering. The den where I was born, the taste of my first kill, the howl of the pack on a moonlit night, the warmth of my mate beside me, the playful tumble of pups. Memories, if that is what they are, blend with instinct and sensation, a life distilled into fragments. A raven lands nearby, watching with intelligent eyes. Then another. They wait, patient and inevitable. I do not fear them. They are part of the cycle as I am. My body soon will feed them and others, returning nutrients to the ecosystem, sustaining life in death. This is the way of things. My breathing slows, each breath a greater effort than the last. The world dims, sounds fading, the cold receding. And then stillness. I am gone, my life concluded, my body remaining, a gift to the scavengers and the soil. But the pack continues. My mate, my offspring, my descendants carry forward the lineage, shaped by the genes I contributed and the lessons I imparted. They hunt, they howl, they raise pups, they endure. The territory I helped establish persists, defended and maintained by those who come after. The cycle continues, unbroken, as it has for millennia. This is the reality of wolf existence. We are individuals, each with our own experiences and fates, but we are also part of something larger, a species, an ecosystem, a process that transcends any single life. Our births and deaths, our successes and failures, our bonds and conflicts, all weave into the fabric of the natural world. We shape the land and are shaped by it. We are predators, but we are also prey to disease, to each other, to humans, to time. We are social beings, finding meaning and survival in the pack, yet also individuals, each with our own trajectory. Understanding wolves requires embracing this complexity, resisting simplistic narratives of good or evil, nobility or savagery. We are animals, evolved and adapted, doing what evolution has equipped us to do, survive and reproduce in a challenging and ever-changing world. We are neither villains nor saints, neither symbols nor tools, but living beings with intrinsic value and ecological roles that merit respect and consideration. The future of wolves is uncertain, as it always has been. We face ongoing threats from habitat loss, human persecution, climate change, and disease. Yet we also possess remarkable resilience and adaptability, traits that have allowed us to persist across vast landscapes and through dramatic environmental changes. Whether wolves continue to thrive or decline in the coming decades depends largely on human choices, on whether societies choose coexistence over eradication. whether they value biodiversity and ecological integrity over narrow economic interests, whether they invest in conservation and conflict mitigation. The story of wolves is not just a biological narrative, but a cultural and ethical one. It is a story about how humans relate to the natural world, about fear and respect, about domination and coexistence. It is a story still being written, its outcome uncertain. But for now, in forests and mountains and tundra across the northern hemisphere, wolves continue to live, hunt, howl, and raise their young. They are survivors, shaped by millions of years of evolution, adapted to some of the harshest environments on Earth. They are part of the wild, a reminder of the power, beauty, and complexity of the natural world. And as long as there are wild places and prey to sustain them, wolves will endure, embodying the ancient rhythms of predator and prey, life and death, pack and individual that define existence in the wild. We are wolves. This is our life, told as truthfully as science and observation allow, without embellishment or fantasy. We are not human, do not think as humans do not possess human morality or consciousness. We are shaped by instinct, by learning, by the demands of survival in environments that do not forgive weakness or error. We live in the moment, responding to hunger, threat, and opportunity, our decisions driven by immediate needs and evolutionary imperatives. We do not contemplate the future in abstract terms, do not ponder mortality or meaning. We simply live, as fully and fiercely as our nature allows, until we cannot. This is what it means to be a wolf, to run through forests on legs built for endurance, to howl with the pack under cold stars, to taste the hot blood of prey, to curl beside your mate in the snow, to raise pups and teach them the skills they need, to defend territory against rivals, to endure hunger and injury, to age and weaken and eventually fall, returning to the earth that sustained you. It is a life of hardship and beauty, struggle and grace, solitude and connection. It is a life shaped by the land, by prey, by weather, by pack, by human presence. It is a life that deserves to be understood, not through myth or projection, but as it is, wild, complex, and utterly, undeniably real.